Shakalaka!
Hello and welcome to The Swing, where we are back in full flow. The NBA season is here. Lots of stories to talk about. I am joined by my co-host Owais to break it all down for you. And we are in the bubble. And man, have I missed this.
I mean, we got a chance to talk to you guys last week about the bubbling. And we're here back. The NBA season has officially started. We're really excited, and we're going to get right into it. HK, you want to talk about the ironic situation with Rudy Gobert? Talk to that. Talk to them about that, please.
Yeah. Look, the NBA season restarted with the Utah Jazz starting off their first game against the New Orleans Pelicans. And by the way, we're going to have to talk about the Pelicans and how disappointing they have been. But for the man who shut down the entire league, Rudy Gobert with his COVIDiot tactics. I mean, anyone could have been potentially infected, but just the way that he was playing fast and loose with it, and it was just incredibly ironic to me. Yeah, just touching everywhere, touching mics, everywhere. To get the first basket with Donovan Mitchell passing it to him to get it. And so literally the first touch to score. There was just something incredibly funny to me with that. And he hit the key free throws to win the game as well. So Rudy Gobert had his fingerprints all over the NBA restart. And you know what? To me, that's a ironic yet great way to be able to restart what has been some pretty insane games.
Absolutely, dude. Basketball fans, basketball is back with a bang. HK, you had a stat about just how well people are playing. Talk to them. Tell them about that.
This is just purely going back to what we mentioned in the last podcast about players complimenting how much better the sight lines are, how they feel more comfortable shooting around in these gyms. And we're already seeing the early results of that with regards to points per game. At this moment, Monday, August the 3rd, average points per game have gone up by 6 points just in the first couple of games in the bubble. And now I'm not going to say that it's all just because of sightlines, all of that. Fresh legs could have a bit to do with it, not to mention it's a small sample size. But we are seeing some really, really incredible offensive performances to start.
Yeah.
And it's not as if the defense has been bad. Some of these games have been really solid lockdown. You're seeing the shots that people are hitting are on greatly contested looks. But man, there's something about it.
Shooters will shoot, and it's beautiful. We love it. That's 6 more points, by the way, than Joel Embiid against the Raptors a few months back. But zero. But we're going to get right into it. So hot topics. You guys remember that? I remember that. I know HK remembers that. But hot topic. Alert. Hot topic numero uno. Teams and players that are playing good. I'm going to start by talking about one of the teams that I found to have been playing so well, and that is the Miami Heat. Okay, let's take it to the East first, and then we'll transition to the West.
All right.
The Miami Heat have showed their depth, okay? They have incredible role players, and they have incredible ISO type of players that can get buckets whenever they want. Okay. But there are a few additions to this team that, nobody can take for granted. Right now, Kelly Olynyk, the Canadian with the most ugly hair that I've ever seen, is
not a man bun anymore.
Not a man, it doesn't matter. It just looked dumb in the first place. But anyway, that guy is not only helping facilitate the ball well, setting some really solid screens, but we're also seeing him shoot the freaking 3-ball like as if he was Steph Curry, and he was never a big man in the first place. But Kelly Olynyk is almost shooting above 50%, and has hit some really, really big threes to kind of transition the games, like change the games over. He was a big game changer. So big ups to Kelly Olynyk. And another person I wanted to talk about, and Kelly got 20 against Toronto, and or maybe was it Denver? It was Denver.
The first one, yeah.
Yeah, he got 20 against Denver and 17 against Toronto, and really, really proud of, the Canadian guy, even if it is against Toronto. And Jay Crowder, I think one of the biggest things about Jay is that he's such a good fit for any team. He adjusts his game. And in Miami, he's just looking exceptional. It's like as if he needed to be here for some purpose, because his defense has been so great. He's actually been having to guard bigger guys and faster guys than him, but he's adjusting really, really well. And the defensive minded Miami Heat has only complemented his gameplay, and he's been hitting such clutch 3 shots, right? So he's also been given that responsibility to be a 3-and-D guy, and he's taking it heads on, and he's doing so well with it. Goran, the Dragon is back. Dragic is back, and he is balling out. I don't like the guy, but he's been playing so well, and you got to respect that. He had some really, really tough buckets against the Toronto Raptors, and just automatic, to be honest. But yeah, the Miami Heat, with everybody that they have, Nunn, you have Butler, you have Adebayo, Harrow, and even Duncan Robinson's been shooting lights out as well. So this team is looking incredible for the future. Really proud of how they're playing. It's really, really great basketball to watch. And so Miami, one of the teams playing good in the East. Now we're going to talk about the second team that really struck me as a team playing really, really well. And I'm talking about more the underdogs.
Right.
We're going to talk about the Orlando Magic. Okay. Right off the bat, I honestly think that this team is very lanky and very quick. And so one thing I appreciate about them is they're still able to move the ball around. I think the ball movement on Orlando currently has been so smooth and flowing. It's really, really benefited them. Some key guys, Vucevic has always been kind of like that main guy that they're getting the most of the post production or point production from. But on any given day, someone else steps up, right? You saw an incredible first game from Evan Fournier, like almost unstoppable. And some of the buckets he was getting were just so difficult. But also, some were so easy because of the system that they were playing in. Aaron Gordon had a big game last game, which was great to see.
T. Ross as well
had a great shooting lights out. And so, they have such tremendous upside, not just defensively, but offensively, because of the amount of hoopers they have on their squad. And so
unfortunately,
one of the things that hurt the most is that Jonathan Isaac, one of their up and coming and probably one of the most
their defensive anchor in many ways. He's just so incredibly versatile. His Swiss Army style play, it's just so sad that he isn't able to stay healthy. And just come on. Again, tore his ACL. He had just kind of rehabbed it, came back.
And he was looking good. He was looking good. Yeah. And so tried slashing to the basket, and in this kind of Euro step sort of play, he had torn his ACL. Prayers up to him. I hope he feels better. But nonetheless, the Orlando Magic still look like a very, very, very good team that might shock a lot of people when it comes down to playoff time.
I mean, I would say they're playing well, and they are going, again, the playoffs at the 7 or 8 seed, depending on how it works. But look, in the end, the Orlando Magic are very much defense first. They have been one of the best defensive teams in the league last year, and they've continued that on this year. They're going to miss a lot of that with Jonathan Isaac, and I still struggle to see consistently where the offense has come from for them. I mean, T. Ross had a great season last year, and that really helped prop them up to get it there. But when you're really relying on Aaron Gordon, he has shown himself to be incredibly inconsistent. And it's continued. And the problems I have with Aaron Gordon is very much the same problems I used to have with T. Ross when he was here in Toronto. All the athleticism is there, all the capability is there, but he just doesn't have that same drive to the basket.
Yeah.
He settles for so many mid-range jumpers, so many just ill-advised shots that it's like, Aaron, come on, man. For a guy your size to be averaging the field goal percentage you do, it's just not acceptable. It's to a point where he needs to either take that next step and understand that, hey, you are going to be the guy on this team, or they need to start to move on, because at this point, Aaron's had all of it. It's time, and he needs to show it. And Orlando is kind of stuck in that weird treadmill at the moment, and understanding whether it's going to be from this level to the next, because 44% from the field, 30% from three on
especially
volume.
That guy, yeah.
Ugh, it's not it.
You know what? I will say one thing, though, is if he learns to adjust his game, kind of similar to how Zach LaVine has for the Chicago Bulls, I truly think that he can be a threat. I just think that Aaron Gordon does not have a post game. If he can figure out a post game, he'll be so much more effective. If he doesn't want to slash as much anymore, that's fine, but there's other ways to get to the basket and use your size, and he's just not doing that and he's not been efficient, and that's kind of cost him. He had a great game.
Yeah.
So let's see what happens.
Great game. Shot 3 of 3 from 3, but again, the numbers always end up working out, and part of it may be his almost fear of going to the free throw line because his percentages keep dropping from there every year. He's down into the 60s now. But I mean, look, Westbrook was able to get himself back up to 77% now. That didn't stop him from slashing up there. Aaron, you have all the athleticism. Do it.
You heard it here first.
Okay.
Unless your coach has said it. Anyway, let's continue on. You wanted to talk about some big teams, like we know big names such as Indiana. Indiana has been playing out of their minds.
Yeah.
Philadelphia. Talk about them.
Man. So, first of all, Indiana, I had always had them as a dark horse coming in as far as the East is concerned.
I did too, remember.
Oladipo, his health notwithstanding. But again, it all comes down to them having the health to be able to get it because the talent is there. Once again, you wonder why bad teams stay bad? Just remember that TJ Warren was traded away for cash considerations by the Phoenix Suns. Nothing. I mean, they ended up signing Rubio through it, but really,
that trade-off,
that could have happened in any ways. I mean, Rubio is a great fit on that team, but you don't give up that kind of talent and that kind of team-friendly contract for peanuts. It's just not the way to do it. So for TJ Warren to show just what he has been for the last little while, obviously this game was off the chain, 53 points, and he was just insane. I'm sure that middle finger to Jimmy Butler is feeling even better now. But what a game TJ Warren had, and the best part of it is his incredible versatility on the offensive end. We're starting to see the reemergence of the importance of the mid-range game.
Mid-range,
not
1000%.
that you need to be able to keep people honest at that level so that the rest of your game opens up. And in all the push towards the analytics, this is another level of that analysis that's coming through, because for you to be able to get to the basket, to the three, in the kind of efficient way that you want, you need someone that has the defense come up, so they can't just stay home. And TJ Warren is one of those guys who is a huge proponent of that. And when it comes to Indiana in playoff time, when the space gets tighter, when you need that bucket,
he can get that for you.
TJ Warren can get that. And that's going to take so much pressure off of players like Brogdon, Oladipo, Turner. There's just so much talent on that team that if they can put it together, come through it healthy, I wouldn't be shocked to see them upset one of the top seeds.
100%.
And I say that as them being a potential matchup for the Toronto Raptors. So it's just like, look, watch out for Indiana. They've always been one of those dark horse teams. They have the capability to upset anyone on their day. They have been playing incredibly well, and I think this bubble is going to do great for them as far as that health is concerned, taking away the travel, taking away all those things that would hurt the rehab process. So Oladipo will be feeling good.
Yeah.
Indiana will be feeling good about that.
Yeah. One really quick point about TJ Warren, and one thing that I saw in his game that really I appreciated, the mid-range that HK is talking about is great, but he shot lights out without any hesitation from the three line. I think he hit like maybe 8 or 9 threes that game. So confidence, that's all it is.
Yeah, and especially for someone who wasn't a great three-point shooter early on. It's just a lot of players are showing their improvement, especially from that, and they're professionals. They're showing their time off is there.
Yeah.
TJ Warren, hats off.
Right. Joel Embiid and the Philadelphia Sixers. Talk about them.
So first of all, do we consider any home games for them in Orlando to be home games?
I mean, no.
Those sightlines of virtual fans, because if that's not the case, they are doo-doo away from home.
Yeah.
That being said, Joel Embiid, what a statement game to start off the bubble season for him. A 40 and 20 piece where he was just ridiculously dominant. And we have seen this in the past from Embiid, but there's just, to me, ever since Kawhi took his soul
it's just been different with him.
100%.
He's been so much more motivated.
Yeah, not doing as much stupid crap on social media. Really, you're seeing him start to mature in his game, get to that focus. I mean, even as simple as wearing a full hazmat suit to come into the bubble, right?
Yeah.
It just goes back to Embiid is taking his game seriously, and when that happens, Philly is incredibly happy. The problem with Philly has been, again, a consistency aspect of it, and especially that consistency from their wing. Mm-hmm. Losing out on Redick and Butler on the year, they were really hoping for a player like Josh Richardson to really step up, and whether it be injuries or just his own drop in form, he has had a bad season. It's sad when Shake Milton has just come out and straight up displaced you. Just because he plays harder. It has nothing to do with talent. Josh Richardson's one of my favorite 3-and-D guys, one of my favorite Swiss Army knife players. And him on Miami was doing all those things and more and was a key part of their rotation. They just haven't found that same kind of role and same kind of effectiveness for him in Philly. And it's just, I don't know. I don't know what to say.
Do you know what? I personally think a lot of it comes down to just how that team is led, right? Like Embiid, he leads on the court for the most part. But I don't see this team being a cohesive unit. And one of the things that I find different between like a Miami team versus a Philly team is a lot of it's coaching.
Yeah.
And secondly is how to play as a team, right? I think Embiid being so good at what he does, it becomes an easy cop-out to say, and we won't ever talk about the holes within Philly's actual chemistry as a team, right? And, you know, maybe that has an impact on Josh Richardson. Maybe they're asking him to do more than what he would have expected, or maybe he just doesn't know what his role is entirely, right?
Yeah.
So there could be a lot of different reasons, but no excuse for him, no excuse for the Sixers. But yeah, man, they've been playing pretty well.
Yeah, look, the Sixers are going to be a threat regardless of how discombobulated they are, just from a pure talent perspective. But you're right, it has a lot to do with just the chemistry within the team, maturity, the coaching. There's a reason why good veterans on a team are always required. Not to say that the Sixers don't have it, because Al Horford is there, but Horford himself has had a down season. I mean, he's coming off the bench for them now in a hope that can perhaps invigorate him against some lesser bigs and get him back going, because he has had, again, a very down season. For a guy that was essentially one of the key parts to Boston's success in the years that he was there, anchoring their defense, getting into the All-Star game, not because of his numbers, but just purely because of the impact he was having on their winning. And for the Sixers to not be able to take advantage of that, to really, once again, be in that scenario where I'm not seeing that next step on that team of the players that we should have been seeing it from. I mean, Ben Simmons to me still remains a very, very limited player. Question mark on there. His shooting is obviously going to be a downside on any of it, even though he's taking a couple more shots with some more confidence. But until and unless that happens, these guys who are on the wing need to be able to take that pressure off him. And with Richardson not doing it, Horford, who's been essentially stretching out for them, not doing it consistently either, it's just a terrible situation for Philly. And when I get down to talking about Philly's upside, it just comes down to, can you contain Embiid and can you throw Simmons off his fast break game, and you win. And it's the same issue, same lack of depth on them, and I think the Sixers will really have a lot to think about once the season's over, because I don't see them getting anywhere near where they want to be.
Right. Talk about some other teams or some standout players.
Yeah. To me, so we're moving on to the West side here, right? Obviously, the East is what it is. But yeah, we move on to the West, and there have been some incredible, incredible performances by teams and by players. First of all, I've already been talking about the Rockets since we started off this podcast over here. The Rockets, to me, have all the capabilities in my mind to be able to go all the way in the West, and we are seeing just exactly why. Even though their shooting can always be streaky, the level of defense that they're playing, and just plain and simple, their capability to be able to rotate and close out on their smaller ball lineups without losing the rebounding battle as bad as you think, it's just been insane. That game against the Bucks was just ridiculous. That was a staple. I think that was a statement win.
Yeah,
statement win. And the best part of it is that, frankly, they had no business winning that game near the end until and unless when James Harden was on Giannis in the post, twice got steals on him. Other times they closed off his passing lanes, and once again, those question marks about Giannis and what he can do with his jump shot, what he can do when that lane closes out for him, they were up there again. I am again seeing those same like deer in headlights look that Giannis gets when he's asked to do something different, and who knows what that's going to be for the Bucks, because Middleton has stepped up
1,000%. He's also one of the big standout performers so far in this quarantine bubbled edition of the NBA. But also Lord Covington. Talk about Lord Covington and how great he stepped up. I believe, is he playing power forward or center? I think he's playing.
So they get PJ Tucker to play the center while Covington kind of swaps off between the 3 and 4 between him and Daniel House. But Covington is, first of all, he's already had 2 signature blocks to start this season off. One on Porzingis and one yesterday on Giannis.
Yeah.
But to me, Robert Covington is the premier 3-and-D player in the league. When that trade happened and Houston was able to get him, I right then and there was like, this is going to be a game-changing acquisition for the Rockets, and it has proven to be exactly that. He's been averaging nearly 3 blocks a game since he came onto the Houston Rockets, alongside being pretty much the key reason why they're able to keep that small ball lineup going and why they're not feeling the loss of Capella the way you might have otherwise thought. It's nasty, and it's not even necessarily his offense because he's always been a streaky shooter. But when you're putting up 61, 62 3-point attempts a game like the Rockets did against the Bucks, some of them are going to fall, and they'll fall well enough for a team that has movement like they do and has the defensive rotations that they do, that you can deal with that kind of volume and actually be successful. And to me, Houston, this is their key opportunity. Because to me, the only reason they haven't got at least one chip so far has been, one, just unlucky as far as injuries are concerned, and some bad shooting streak that happened, 27 missed threes. Talk about that game till the end of time. But it was the Warriors that was stopping them. And that was a team they were set to beat because, frankly, no one in the West could otherwise stand with them otherwise. And the way they are now and the way they keep playing with their bench unit, I think they have the depth and the capability to be able to topple any of the LA teams. And it's going to come down to really whether they can avoid those intensively long cold streaks, which can happen when the numbers are there. But from a purely talent perspective, Rockets will feel quite confident going into this.
So as much as I do agree with you, HK, about how they have been playing absolutely incredible defensive ball, and a lot of credit goes to James Harden and how he's like, one of the things about James Harden has always been this guy plays no defense, or he's a under average.
Untrue, by the way.
And so HK has always advocated for how great of a defensive player he actually is, or how much he has improved over the years. And it was a great example, especially in the clutch moments, of how James had handled himself. But I'm going to talk about Lord Covington. I love the guy. I think we both have high praise for how great of a player he is and how well he fits into any role, right? My only one question is, when it comes down to the playoffs, he's going to be playing extended minutes, right? And he's going to be bullied a lot by these bigger guys. So how does that play into his fatigue when it comes into the playoff season? Is he going to be able to maintain that consistency on defense? So a lot into question. But for now, given what we've seen so far and this season with the little amount of games that we have seen Covington play with the Rockets, it's been great. It's been really good, and we just hope that continues. So as long as it doesn't continue past the Raptors in the finals.
Yes, here to hear first. I've been calling Rockets and Raptors final for a couple of months at this point now, or at least for a long time coming. So I hope they can get to that point. I've always liked watching the Rockets. I've always liked the way they've gone about it and always putting their players in the best position to succeed. Look at the amount of players that have their best seasons in their careers over there, right? So it just comes down to, can the Rockets continue to take that step? And now, with less travel, less fatigue, all of that, how much of a positive impact could that have on James Harden, who has, in all of these seasons where it gets later and later into the playoffs, where you start to see some of that fatigue come through, where you start to see, the defense is keying in on him to such an extent that he doesn't have great games. I'm hoping that we can see a turnaround in that, because fear the beard.
Fear the beard. Any other teams that you want to talk about? Any other standout players? Just because I do want to move on to the next.
Yeah, the only other standout thing that I want to talk about is just that race for that 8th seed that we're seeing. Portland has been absolutely reinvigorated by the return of Jusuf Nurkic, who has been one of the best players in this bubble. Just 2 incredibly nasty games coming straight off. First one getting them an incredibly impressive win, and even against that Boston Celtics game, they were so close to pulling off with a 30-point deficit that they came back from near the end. only for a Jaylen Brown 3 to
That
sink
was-
him there.
yeah.
That was a nice 3. I don't like Jaylen, but good shot there. But no doubt, look, Portland will feel confident that considering how close everything is and frankly how disappointing some of the other teams in the bubble have been at the bottom, especially the Pelicans, they will feel that if they can get into that 2-game situation with the Memphis Grizzlies for that 8th seed, they can get into the playoffs, and that may very well be one of those situations where if the Lakers are up against them in the first round, where I don't see them winning the series, but it could be a longer series than the Lakers would have hoped for in the first round.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, Melo's looking really good as well. But just, again, it comes back to how great of a ball mover, Nurkic is, right? Like, he's so good for both McCollum and Lillard, and he spaces out the floor a little bit, too, for them. So, it's just creating a lot of great offense. And defensively, he's been a stud and getting great rebounds both on the offensive and defensive end. So, just having that presence back is huge for the Portland Trail Blazers. And we're really excited to see how this transitions. Does it transition to a playoff appearance? Hopefully. I would love to see him there.
No problem against Portland. I don't think they're making the playoffs this year. And to me, Memphis deserves it more, and they've played more consistent ball. But if Portland are playing like this and put themselves in a position to win, anything can happen.
Absolutely. And you wanted to talk about Trey Burke.
Just a quick shout out because Matt Mann
Trey's.
I swear that the Houston Dallas game. I mean, the score itself was ridiculous: 153-149, 153-149 to end it in overtime. But just some of the threes that Trey Burke was hitting, it's like in NBA 2K you turn the sliders all the way up. This was, good God, he was running around the corner, just turn around, jump it up, not even needing to look. It's like he got the green shot marker, look to the crowd, and it's still splashed.
He went lights out, man.
We'll
He's
see if
playing
Trey
lights
Burke can
out.
do that. I doubt we see a performance like that again anytime soon, but man, that individual performance needed to be shouted out because I felt Curry was back. It was just, disgusting.
Well, yeah, big ups to Trey Burke, man. He's reinventing himself yet again. Now let's talk about hot topic numero dos. Alert, alert. Referee calls and that clarity and that that openness. We can hear all the calls and the reasonings. Talk about that.
Look, we've always wanted transparency. We've always wanted the capability to be able to understand a little bit more about what goes on in the middle.
In the middle, and why they're wrong all the time. Is it just because they're stupid or because they're stupid? And more we find out it's because they're stupid. Okay, so anyway.
So just in that Toronto game
Oh
today,
my God.
let's just quickly, I know we're going to spend a little bit more time about the Raptors later on, but just today in that game against the Miami Heat, we had 2 consecutive calls that happened within a couple of minutes of each other. One was called a flagrant, one wasn't. And
No, there was one that should have been a flagrant and it wasn't.
Both should have been, to be honest.
But no, there was also this really dumb call on Kyle Lowry that I was so mad. But anyway, there's three. One that, again, anyway, continue. I'm sorry.
Man,
I'm getting heated.
I know, he's getting heated.
I'm getting Miami
The one
heated.
where Goran Dragic has the ball taken away from him and OG has a fast break running there. What does he do? Sticks his hand out to
Grabs
trip him
his freaking leg and trips him up.
and causes him to go flying on the other end. But of course, because no injury occurred and that it didn't seem like it was a potential to injure according to the referee, it was called a common foul.
No, it's called a common foul also because he was trying to get his balance. Last time I checked, when I'm falling, my hands are going right to the ground just to get my balance. But no, he's on the ground and then he lifts his hand up just as soon, conveniently as OG runs by him.
All we needed was for OG's hand to actually be broken before someone calls that, but
calls it a flagrant on OG for why did he hit the floor that hard? That's where we... Anyway. Kyle Lowry getting called on Olynyk on a hop step. He had full position. Olynyk came in onto Kyle, but it's a offensive foul on Lowry.
because he was apparently going away from the basket. It's just
the dumbest, worst explanations I've ever seen. Consistently, I've seen it with the Raptors, and it hurts me to the core because this is why I get that trauma. I have referee trauma, okay? This is consistent. We're the champs now. Look at my hat. Look at his hat. There's a ring that we did have here, but it just didn't look great. We couldn't see it entirely. But clearly the referees don't see it either because they don't respect us enough. These are the champs. They deserve to get those calls the right way. Unbelievable. I am just so sad. Because now, even if you think about it from a context of the game, we're having to use our review for really dumb, obvious things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so if late in the game, especially against Miami right now, it was a very close game all the way to the end, 10 points were easily associated with just the stupidity of the calls of the referees.
Yeah.
So, you know, I am glad that we get to hear their BS, but unfortunately, even though I'm glad I can see how dumb they are, it doesn't change the fact that, you know, they get to make the decisions. So nothing's changed.
Yeah, and I think in general, NBA is going to have to start making those changes in terms of the review system, and that if you get a successful review, you have to be able to keep that review. It doesn't make sense for you to lose it, because then you start thinking about, should I let this stupid call go just because I don't want to have no reviews in the situation in the fourth, right?
Exactly.
So that's, to me, an easy change that needs to occur as soon as possible to help combat this. And secondly, look, I understand how difficult it is to referee a game. Right? It's a very, very fast-paced game. Stuff happens. But some of these calls, if you, as a viewer, can see it like right there, it is so incredibly clear that it is what it is. Come on, refs. Come on.
I almost lost my mind when they literally, Jimmy Butler hit the ball out, and they called it on the Raptors. Thank God for reviewing that play.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm like...
a couple of years ago, we might have lost that game.
We probably would have. And so, again, I'm glad that we can hear their stupidity, but, I mean, hopefully the review system changes, but we're glad that we can see that call, similar to how the NHL has it and why, you know, the explanations about the calls and stuff like that, just for transparency, it's great. But I'm just going to move on from this because it's hurting too much. And
also, how easily refs are calling technicals now, just because you can now hear the players. The amount of trash talk has always been there, but I'd rather the game didn't get neutered because of that. I want to hear them tell them whose daddy is it.
Yeah. So that's the exciting thing. Hopefully, issue out more text just as long as we can hear all that trash talk.
Go for it.
So moving on to hot topic number 3. Alert, Coach of the Year talks.
Man. So, of course, the official NBA Coach of the Year award will be given alongside the other awards at the end of the year. But today we just found out that the NBA Coaches Association, which is the peer-reviewed award, all the coaches voting for who they think should be the Coach of the Year, that we have 2 co-recipients of it in Billy Donovan and Mike Budenholzer of the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Milwaukee Bucks, respectively, with Nick Nurse being a vote behind to be able to have it as a 3-way tie.
I don't think they remember this. And we don't have Kawhi. We don't have this guy anymore.
And in terms of the most injury minutes of the starters, we have the most injured team. Yet we are on pace for more wins in the year than when we had Kawhi.
Dude, we've been 20-4 since January. Imagine that. That's crazy.
No doubt. Look, Nick Nurse, it should be, in my opinion, a shoo-in for the Coach of the Year. But I will give credit to Billy Donovan especially. To me, that OKC team has been one of the incredible stories of the year. Chris Paul having a renaissance season.
Absolutely.
And bringing up what otherwise may have been a lottery team into playoff contention. And frankly, if they stay where they are, face off against the Nuggets in the first round series, both of them are very similar, deep teams. Thunder could be looking at an upset over there. So imagine a lottery team that's got picks upon picks upon picks for the next couple of years because of their trades, now looking so damn good, so ahead of their development cycle with young players that look ready to take the next step, have Chris Paul taking someone like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander under his wing, and now ready to add even more talent and be what could be a force for the next couple of years.
100%.
So I personally, to me, like I said, to me, Nick Nurse should be in, but I wouldn't be mad if Billy Donovan was to win Coach of the Year. Mike Budenholzer, to me, look, the Bucks are playing really well. Obviously, the best record in the league needs to be recognized, but it's not like they are markedly more amazing this year than they were the last. And Mike Bud won it last year as well. So, like, it's one of those things like Popovich, right? Yes, he could be in the running at all times for Coach of the Year just because of sustained success. But you reward, to me, the coaches that have had to deal with such adverse situations, such massive changes in personnel, yet still finding that success. That's Billy Donovan and even more so Nick Nurse to me.
Absolutely. Big ups to both those coaches. And also big ups, you're right, Chris Paul has done an amazing job. being that father for a lot of those guys. It just looks like a great team. They're very fast. Actually, surprisingly, a very quick team too. They've been doing really, really well.
Gallinari's had a great season. Just all these players that would have otherwise been kind of discarded or thought of as washed up. It's over.
Gallinari injury prone. Chris Paul toxic. A lot of different things. But they've done a great job. So big ups to them. Although, of course, my loyalty is with my coach and my team. So Nick Nurse deserves it no matter what in my eyes. But I can respect the fact that Billy Donovan's done a great job. But yeah, we're going to move on from there. Okay. Hot topic number 4. Alert. The protocols actually have been loosened? What does that mean?
What it means is that the restrictions on what they consider to be inconclusive tests as far as COVID is concerned for these players is going to be loosened to the point to allow some of these guys to be able to potentially come back. There's no doubt that this entire bubble, everything, the first and foremost and most important thing is the health of the players and everyone else involved in that. But with the amount of tests that the NBA runs pretty much on a constant basis, which is, of course, to me also, look at all these people who aren't able to get tests. And the NBA is able to just test players on the fly. But hey, money talks. America. But secondly to that, when tests are done, they say that on an average of 1,000 tests, you can have a 5 that can be inconclusive or make it seem like someone could potentially be COVID positive when they aren't. So what they're allowing for is that if a player is asymptomatic when these inconclusive tests come up, they are able to take another test at least 60 minutes or within 60 minutes of the start time of the game.
Okay.
And if they are found to be negative in that test, they are allowed to play.
Oh, wow.
So where we just saw this is literally just in the Jimmy Butler game. So Jimmy Butler was excused from the Sunday practice, and initially we had thought it was just something personal. But what we're finding out now is that he had actually gotten an inconclusive test for potentially having COVID. So what they had done is they had put him out of practice, and then they had him run another test within 60 minutes of the game start time. And when he was found to be negative there, he was allowed to play. So, look, obviously we want to see the players. We don't want someone like Jimmy Butler sitting out if they don't have to. I don't know what kind of effect this is going to have, but to me, if you have you have the science behind it, you're doing the tests, they're showing themselves to be asymptomatic, and it allows them to play.
By all means,
play it. Quicker return to action. I don't know what that means for the people that are going to be outside of the bubble coming in. That perhaps is going to be the same thing where they're still going to have to show that and may not need to quarantine as long. But at this moment, this is just the inconclusive test one.
Okay, well, thank you for letting us know, HK. And that's what we have for the hot topics. And now we're going to get right into the champions, the Toronto Raptors. Basketball fans, let's talk about how the Toronto Raptors are still looking like champions out here. 2-0 so far in the bubble. Why are they 2-0? Because they've been playing great defense. Okay, the defense has been top tier as always, and the length and just the variety of defensive, schemes that Nick Nurse has for the Raptors has just been doing absolute justice to how well this team has been playing. But talk about the backcourt.
So the backcourt has been out of this world. Each game we have had either Kyle Lowry's great regardless. He had a great game in both of them, but the game he had against the Lakers, which was just like the ultimate FU to every American media man who had already written off the Raptors.
And every Toronto fan that talks bad about Kyle. I'm talking to you too.
Toronto Raptors, Skip. But what a game. Not only did Kyle Lowry have in the first game, but now in this one against the Miami Heat, Fred VanVleet. I don't know whose babies he's been holding this time around, but a career night for Fred VanVleet, 37 points, just incredible. And some of those threes, I swear they were out of the frame rainbows that he was hitting on the bigs of Miami. I think he had one over, it wasn't Bam, it might have been over one of their other power forwards. Fred, might have been over Kelly.
I think it was over Kelly.
But regardless, it was just a complete and utter rainbow to hit it. But just the confidence, the championship DNA, and the will to win is essentially what is separating the Toronto Raptors. Because let's not forget, the schedule they have in this bubble.
So one of the toughest.
It is the toughest in terms of the records of the teams that they're going to be facing. No other team has a more difficult schedule, and the Raptors stay undefeated thus far. Now, the Lakers one was just a signature win, just coming out, pure professionalism, just outclassed the LA Lakers through and through. It was a dominant performance, and it all starts with your leader. And when your leader takes 3 charges, when your leader is willing to put his body on the line and his booty on the line, and when he is not in any way scared of any opposition in front of him, that rubs off on the rest of your team. And
100%.
there is not enough praise I can give Kyle Lowry for not only his own performance, but just the way that he is orchestrating the offense and anchoring the defense on the Toronto Raptors. It is out of this world. And to me, in this bubble, we aren't the Raptors stuck in the bubble. The NBA is stuck in the bubble with Kyle Lowry.
There we
and that's
go.
what's happening here.
There we go. Don't forget, this is Jurassic Park, and the Raptors are looking to prey. That's what's happening. Big ups to Van Vliet as well. I think one of the big plays against the Miami Heat was at the very end. Not so much his scoring, but defensively he had a deflection that pretty much helped us win the game at the very, very end. So again, like we've been saying, backcourt has been shooting lights out. They have been facilitating the ball just as well, getting those deflections. Van Vliet leads, I think, the league in deflections.
Yeah, it used to be Drew Holiday up there, but Van Vliet's overtaken him, and he's also top 5 just in steals. So
there you go. Just incredible play from the Raptors all around. The media themselves is waking up. A lot of people, like Dwight Howard had said, Raptors and Lakers in the finals. Not to say that he's media, but a lot of analysts are also kind of giving the credit to the Toronto Raptors that is quite honestly due.
Yeah.
It is.
Well, I think the biggest advantage that you're going to get from the bubble is just plain and simple the exposure that teams that otherwise aren't getting mainstream coverage are going to now get. Because they're the only game that's going to be happening at the time. You're pretty much going back to back to back to back on these games, which means that these lesser teams, as far as the coverage is concerned, are going to be front and center. And you're seeing now that people are waking up to what we've already known for a long time, when we've been yelling from the north, that this team is
special.
Legit, this team is special, and this team could be all the way once again. Doris Burke had that comment during the previous game where I believe it was the Celtics playing in that one, and just in general they were talking about teams that are coming out of the East and how she would not be in the least bit surprised if the Raptors are the ones that came out of the East, and in fact she is picking them to do it. So look, shout out to Doris Burke, always loved you, but it's great that these media guys and these media heads who are supposed to be following the NBA for their job are finally going to watch just what the Toronto Raptors are, and man, it's just been beautiful. As you said, the defensive rotations have been out of this world. Just in that Lakers game, there were a number of possessions where Lakers had 8-10 passes, all consistently looking for the open man, where it could have broken down any other defense. But the closeouts were so insane that it forced them into 2 shot clock violations at that point. So it's just like, man, for a team that has lost Kawhi, or a team that has lost Danny Green,
2 defensive anchors as well.
2 defensive anchors, one of them being just in general one of the best players in the league. How insane is it that the Toronto Raptors are even better than they were last year?
Right, and just want to talk about the Lakers game really quickly as well. One of the things about the first half of basketball was not necessarily so much that people failed to score because they're doo-doo. I mean, these are 2 very talented offensive teams. It was both teams were playing such high-level basketball, and especially on the defensive end, that it required so much more for people to score. So even though the first half was, quite frankly, to the person that doesn't know basketball, just an awful first half with very low scoring, look at, like, from a person who loves, watching, defensive schemes and
love the D, huh?
I love the D. I love it. And so seeing both teams performing at such a high level is something that, I can really respect and I really appreciate. So even if it was not a high scoring half, it was definitely high defensive IQ, and I was really impressed by both teams.
Yeah. And in general, like in the bubble, we're seeing the depth of teams really start to show their way through.
And
just like Miami today, really, really impressive with their bench. Obviously, Dragic, who has taken on a bench role and just thrived in it for them, and just the rest of the guys that come there. The Raptors are very, very much the same thing, where the reason why they essentially blew out the Lakers at the end is because they scored about 40 more bench points coming through. And it's not just that they're scoring on there, it's just the lack of drop-off from when the starters go off to when the bench comes on.
Yeah.
And we're seeing that with the teams that have been successful so far in the bubble. And that's why, to me, this bubble may very well make that huge difference, because when you would have all this travel, all this load management that would come there, those guys would be dead tired. Those guys would be not able to keep up this level because of the fact that they've had to do travel, they've had to be relied on so much, while these other teams that are star heavy have been load managing, have the capability for their stars to just come in fresh legs and just beat the heck out of the other team. We're not going to be able to see that as much. So to me, that is to the disadvantage of teams like the Lakers, teams like the Clippers, where they are so heavily reliant on their top two. Less so the Clippers, because they do have some depth going there, but the Lakers especially, to me, that 51 win, that first seed in the West, to me is a very precarious position for the Los Angeles Lakers, because that team, to me, has an incredible amount of holes that they need to fill. Kuzma as your third best player, to me, doesn't do it. This is not it for me. It's not happening.
What do you mean? I thought J.R. Smith was their third best player.
He's their third best something.
But yeah, definitely a lot of great points that you've come up with, and I think that's very important to note, especially travel time. But, you know, it is exciting. Basketball is back, and we're really, really glad that we're able to do these podcasts for you so we can break down, you know, some of the things that we see.
Yeah.
And, you know, this is our passion. This is what we really, really love. And so thank you once again for tuning in to another episode of The Swing.
The Swing.
And I'm here with HK. My name's Owais. And
just make sure to like and subscribe on Instagram at The Swing Podcast. We're on Facebook and also on YouTube, where you can get this video. So make sure you look at us, share it around, share the love, and we'll be back once again to give you more from The Swing.
The Swing.
Peace.